What's up guys, Perry from Rockville here, and today I'm going to teach you how to set up your RBG10S bass gig powered subwoofer. This is the perfect subwoofer for any live performances, recording setups, DJ events, and much more. So along with the subwoofer itself, you'll also get a power cable to power the sub. Now the RBG10S also has a handle on each side of the speaker, which makes it easy to bring to any gig or event. We also have a 35mm pull socket on top of the subwoofer that we can use to insert a pole to prop up a speaker. Now the RBG10S gives us the ability to set the voltage to either 110 volts or 220 volts. We would use 220 volts if we lived in a country that uses that voltage. However, since we're located here in the US, we're going to keep the voltage at 110. So now we can go ahead and turn on the subwoofer with the power switch on the back. So now let's go over some of the controls on the back of the subwoofer. Starting with the volume knob here, this is what you're going to want to use to set the level coming out of the subwoofer. Then we have this low pass filter knob here. This is used to adjust the frequencies coming out of the subwoofer. And on top of that, we have the polarity switch here. This is what we would use to set the phase of the sub so that it syncs up with everything else in our setup. So you'll notice next to the power light here is the clip light, which will tell you if the speaker has reached its peak volume and comes out super distorted or loud. Now the RBG10S has a combo input jack here, so it can take XLR connections as well as 1/4 inch connections. And next to that we have the XLR output that we can use to sync up with another subwoofer or another speaker. And we also have the RCA inputs here on the bottom so that we could use that to connect anything as well. So now let me show you a setup with two powered speakers and the sub together to hear how it sounds. Alright, so here I have my two powered speakers that I'm going to connect to my subwoofer, which is on the floor, so we get the full low end effect. Now before we make any connections, we'll want to be sure to lower the volume of the sub and on our speakers to avoid any unwanted noise or feedback. So before sending the signal to the subwoofer, I first have to connect my two powered speakers. To do that, I'm going to need an XLR to 1/4 inch cable. I'll take the 1/4 inch end and plug that into the 1/4 inch line output on the back of one speaker. Then I'm going to take the male XLR end and plug that into the XLR line input on the back of my other speaker. So now that I've got both speakers connected, I can now send signal to the subwoofer. For that, I'm gonna need a 1/4 inch cable and plug that into the line output on the back of my second speaker. Then I'm gonna take the other end and plug that into the 1/4 inch input on the back of my sub. So now I can go ahead and turn on my speakers. Then I can go ahead and turn on my subwoofer. So next I'm going to want to raise the line level knob on both speakers so that the signal is reaching the subwoofer. Then I'm going to want to raise the volume on my subwoofer as well. And now to test out our system, I'm going to connect my phone into the speakers. So now that everything's connected and ready to go, let's hear how it sounds.
Do it.
Woo! It really fills in the low end that you wouldn't hear on just these speakers alone, which is really awesome. Cool. Feel that right there. So that's a really great setup to use if you have two powered speakers that you want to connect quick and easy to the sub. But we can expand our setup even further if we add a second sub and a passive mixer. So let me show you how to set that up next. Alright, so here I've got my passive mixer and my second subwoofer, and you also may have noticed that we're using the Rockville gas pole A's that are inserted into the pole sockets on our subwoofer, which are also holding our speakers. Again, we'll just want to start with all of our volumes all the way down to avoid any unwanted noise or feedback. So now to set everything up, I'm going to start with plugging the speakers into our mixer. To do that, we'll need two XLR cables. I'm going to take the male ends of our cables and plug them into the XLR line input on the back of the speakers. Then I'm going to take the other ends and plug them into the main left and right outputs on our mixer. So now I'm going to want to connect my speakers into the subwoofers. To do that, I'm going to need two 1/4 inch cables. I'm going to take one end of both cables and plug them into the 1/4 inch line outputs on the back of the speakers. Then I'm going to take the other ends and plug them into the 1/4 inch inputs on our subs. So now we can go ahead and turn on our mixer, turn on our speakers, and then we can turn on our subwoofers. So again, just to make sure that the signal is getting to the subwoofers, we'll want to turn up the line level knobs on the back of our speakers. Then we'll want to raise the volume on the subwoofers themselves. Now to send signal out to the speakers, we'll raise the main left and right faders on our mixer. And now since I have my phone connected to a channel on our mixer to test out the whole system, I want to raise the level for that channel as well. So now that everything is turned on, connected, leveled up, and ready to go, let's hear how the whole system sounds.
Do it.
Yeah, the second sub really makes a difference. Fills out that low end really well. Getting the crisp high end of the speakers as well. Really nice setup. Now this is a great setup for live performances or DJ events, since we can use the mixer to connect microphones or instruments and also to manipulate the sound coming out of both the speakers and the subs. So I hope this showed you guys how easy it is to set up your RBG10S bass gig powered subwoofers. But of course, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to reach out to our customer support team through phone or email. As always guys, I'm Perry from Rockville, and I'll see you next time.